Hey, it's Ryan Kohler, and you're about to hear a powerful conversation with one of the sharpest sales operators in the game, Matt Verlaque, previously with SaaS Academy. We recorded this as part of our AI4Teams Roundtable, a private session where sales leaders cut through the AI hype and get real about what's actually working to enable teams, close deals, and scale revenue systems. In this episode, Matt shares how his team thinks about sales enablement as a change management function, why most teams are still playing enablement theater, and where AI fits into making reps faster and more consistent without just adding noise. If you're trying to bridge the gap between reps doing random follow-ups and reps following a system that works, this one's for you. Let's dive right in. Man, we are just welcome you guys. We're gonna take just a second for a few more people to come in. Maybe as we jump in, Jason, why don't you introduce yourself to kick things off? I'll introduce myself, and we can then kind of cycle around through. Clearly, like I'm an AI guy now, but man, like gosh, 25 years ago, I was an accountant. Studied accounting, got an MBA. By chance, got a job at a tech company. And by tech, we'll be really loose here. I mean, we were doing tech training, but this was Internet Explorer 5 days. So we were building learning management systems that you could log into in Internet Explorer to see all the videos you needed to watch, but clearly the internet was too damn slow to actually let you watch the videos and stream it properly. So then we'd have to either stick it behind your firewall or we'd ship you a DVD just to get the video stream. And so just so that it was actually like a great experience, like we clearly take for granted today, streaming flow. But yeah, started a hiring software company over 2 decades ago. Bootstrapped from zero to like 10,000 clients. Um, yeah, team of 280 people. Stepped down 2 years ago as CEO, and ChatGPT came out, and pretty much spent the last 2.5 years in ChatGPT. Quite literally, the last 2.5 years. If you wanted to call you up on the phone and talk to you, I can probably build some weird character that ChatGPT will call you with.
It's good to meet you guys. My name's Matt. I am different in almost every way. I'm the only East Coaster on this call. I'm in Maryland, about an hour outside of Baltimore, but I hope you guys can still love me. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Precision, where I help founders unscrew their data so they can use it to make more money because data is the root of everything. It says I love data on my hat, so I am a believer. Started and sold a software company before that in 2020, partnered up with a guy named Dan Martell in the software space to run a company called SaaS Academy as the chief operating officer for 3 years, which is where I met Ryan for the very first time. We went to a whole bunch of events together and got to hang when he was running Applicant Pro. And the coolest way I use ChatGPT, we'll talk about all the business stuff later, but I used it to give me a bespoke meal plan because I don't like to do meal prep Tupperware cooking and I wanted to just like microwave some stuff. And so I was able to give it all the constraints that would piss off any human, and it didn't care and didn't have any emotions and made me a nice meal plan where now I can have microwave broccoli with my cold chicken and nobody's judging me except probably all of you, and it's all good. So that's me.
Well, that's awesome. Well, yeah. So I think it's super interesting though, as we look at this and Matt kind of jumps in here and kind of talks. I think he undersold the backstory of his context on both AI and sales. We'll just go with that, right? I mean, I think being around SaaS Academy probably gave you a greater context into various forms of go-to-market and sales, and especially because it was software heavy, I'm assuming AI
Yeah.
than all of us put together. And I hang out with Matt like what, twice a month on this little like weird AI like show off your stuff, show and tell
Yeah,
session.
yeah. It's a
It's actually
mastermind
probably
nerd gathering, whatever you want to
yeah,
call it. It's good.
and probably one of the best examples of where we sit challenge wise. Like I don't know that you listen to everybody on the call, they've all got a unique idea of something they're using AI for, something they're either organizationally or even from a go-to-market standpoint. And I've already picked up probably like 10 notes. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let me write that one down. I'm gonna go mess with it a little bit. Probably one of the biggest problems. We're each kind of developing in our own world, our own little space, without access to what everybody else is doing. So maybe Matt, like, what's the thing you're working on right now, sales wise, that we can kind of lead into? Because I think we don't have a problem of ideas per se. We probably have an idea
Sure.
of too many ideas.
Yeah, as it always is. So there's two things that we're doing in sales that I think are worth talking about. And I want to be very deliberate to I'm really going to only talk about things that you guys can use the tools that you already have in front of you to do. So you can like leave this call and go do some new stuff. So I guess like show of hands, who's got like a sales playbook? I know I'm in a room full of CROs and salespeople, so probably most of you. Solid. So one of the things that my head of revenue did literally the minute I hired him, like the same day, is, and so for context, Precision's a new startup. Like I said, it's not my first rodeo, but it's a new rodeo. We're 5 months in, so we're super small at this point. When we wrote the sales playbook, he immediately went into ChatGPT and loaded up the sales playbook into a custom GPT so that it always has the context. Are you guys making custom GPTs in OpenAI or ChatGPT? Cool. If you're not, it's basically a way to like preload context in the system prompt. So that way it always knows what you're talking about. So you don't have to tell it every single time because we all know how we all love repeating ourselves. So he took the entire sales playbook in and then he basically, after every single sales call, will automate the transcript and have it coach him against our sales playbook on one thing he did right, two things he did wrong, and one thing he should never do again. And it's interesting because this is the second company that I've built with this particular guy. And the first one was pre-AI and the second one's now. And as we scaled that first sales team, like sales leader's job at its heart is quality control and process development above all else. And I think that for him having to be the guy that had to sink, a pretty considerable amount of his day into auditing sales calls, and now he can get text-driven, transcript-driven feedback, in the time it takes him to go to the bathroom, is it's a weapon that I think sometimes you might undervalue. Is like now you can audit every sales call at least to that first little bit instead of just the subset of like which one went well, which one went badly, like the way we all used to coach our reps. So I think this is really nice to have that, but it's just I think it's important to make sure you load the context and don't just have it coach you against random chat GPT crap. Like give it your playbook, make it coach you against the playbook and tell it to reference the specific parts of the playbook that it's coaching you against to guard against hallucinations. And yeah, I think that's one that's been serving us pretty well.
And I think that's an interesting thing. And maybe we can just, again, raise of hands, who in here when you're using, and I use ChatGPT and Claude, just so everybody's,
And
and TeamGPT. If you are not building projects that have attached knowledge base files, raise your hand, meaning you're just throwing a prompt and throwing files against it. Because I think that's probably so. So we're probably like, if you take at just listening to the introductions, like we have groups of people that are like, oh, our company's building AI, which is interesting because you assume, for those of you on the call who aren't at an AI company, you assume that means the whole team are AI gods, right? Surprisingly enough, I mentor a couple AI companies, and then you get with their sales team, and you're like, so you guys aren't using ChatGPT at all. And so it's one of the interesting things is to see that just because an AI company is an AI company, it doesn't mean that their whole org is they still hire somebody from ADP, right? They still hire somebody from outside. But I think one of the things, and I know Matt, because I listen in on some of his team's calls, we on the startup side are kind of at the everybody's a builder. And so one of those things to do to get in the habit of is using a project to load in a knowledge base so there's context and to use the instructions as a kind of a bot protocol. It's like, I want you to be my expert at this. Every time I start a conversation, I'm going to say this, you're going to run this sequence, and you're going to provide me back some structured thing. And while that may seem to the AI people here like fairly generic, it is a habit and like a builder habit of building your own stuff so that when it scales, it works. Because yeah, I like that. For me, I think one of the biggest my aha over the past maybe like 6 months has been those transcripts, calls transcripts, probably the biggest asset in corporate America right now that's
agree.
overlooked.
Yep.
And I guarantee everybody on this call has sales transcripts they use for one or two things. But if we actually cataloged the random ways they're used, you would end up with some really interesting stuff like, oh, I throw this against it and it gives, your piece. For me, I throw a sales transcript against a project and it gives me a blog post and an ebook to market to people similar to the person on the call. So I'm taking it instead of the coaching or instead of the follow-up and throwing it in the front of the top of the funnel and being like, eject this clear to the top and write something that will attract people just like it. And
Yeah.
so I know, Matt, you're deep in marketing right now. What are some of those kind of like connectors? Because I think a lot of times we get so siloed, marketing versus sales versus success, that we're in our own little bucket, right?
Yeah. I think, Ryan, probably the right way to start this conversation is like this. And it's an interesting time, right? Just like those of us who, grew up without the internet or without iPhones and you know the before and after, like we're all in that same boat with AI, right? Whereas like our kids or our kids' kids is just always going to be the way it was. They're not going to know any different. So I think that, like Ryan, when you said, that it might feel basic to the AI people, which is probably a lot of us, the value in this is not in how hard it is or how much you use the tool or how like complex your N8N automations are, if you're or whatever, right? The way that I've coached, like you're right, probably undersold it a little bit. Like I've coached probably 300 or 400 founders in software companies over my time running SaaS Academy. And the way that I coach people now to drive AI adoption in the team is literally take your org chart or your accountability chart if you're like an EOS disciple, and then take every person on there and break it down to the task level, right? So like, with Paul, pick on Paul because he's my friend now. There might be like 17 different tasks that Paul does on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis to do his job, right? And so within each of those tasks, that's where I start to figure out where to apply specific AI workflows in order to make Paul's life easier. And the fascinating thing about everyone on this call, because we've existed in a pre-AI world as well, just take a second and think through like what's the dollar amount you would have paid to like a consultant or an agency or an employee in order to get that same task, and realize the amount of value that you're driving. So I think like it's really fascinating when you break it down to the task level and look at the return you're actually getting. So yes, it's like sales and marketing and success and delivery and product engineering. We have all these little silos. But I think at the end of the day, it's actually much more granular than that. Like the job title doesn't matter. It's literally just how many tasks that used to be a huge pain in the ass in my life or a huge expensive way, thing I had to do to go hire someone to do this thing. How many of them can we use AI to make go, faster? And then how can we automate the inputs and outputs of that workflow so I can stop touching it? If you can make it go faster and then stop touching it, all of a sudden this gets a little bit more fun, and you rinse and repeat that 100 times, and all of a sudden you're like, annual revenue per head count increases by 150 grand, and you're like, oh my god, look, my whole profit margin's different. This is a really fun game now. So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question or
No,
necessarily, Ryan, but I
100%.
think it's a good way to
So
set the
how do you
table.
take that one step further? How do
Yeah,
you prioritize which task to aim it at?
yeah,
Because I think if you do that, you end up with like, well, what from Top Gun, a target-rich environment. You
yeah,
have
for
so
sure.
many freaking targets,
Yep.
and there's so much noise of like, here's 80 different systems. How do I decide which one or five,
Yeah,
right?
I literally treat it like a product roadmap. Just show of hands. I know we have a variety, and I'll explain more in a second. Like, how many of you guys are in software companies? That was at least half of you guys, right? Most of you guys. All right, great. So I know most of you are revenue facing, but in product, for the nerdy builder people, if anyone slants that way like myself, there's this concept in product called the ICE framework, right? Impact, confidence, and ease. And it's a tool that you can use to prioritize what features you should build in a specific order. So, right, impact, when you think about it in the context of your software tool, it's like what percentage of my customer base will this feature help? Confidence is literally what it sounds like. How confident am I that I'm building the right thing? And then ease is obviously how easy is it to build. So that's a great like adjunct to help you prioritize a product roadmap. AI adoption is a product roadmap in the same sense that your business is a product. Like our businesses are product, our companies are products. It's the same thing. Our companies have features and they have versions, and some features work well and some features need to get turned off. And sometimes you got to roll back to the last version when the new one stops working. It's literally the same thing, just like a product. And so I will literally, quite literally, make a list of all of the targets, Ryan, to use the target rich environment. And I'm going to slap an ice matrix on this thing. And I'm going to say, all right, which one's going to have the biggest impact? And it's typically either by like the number of hours or the effective hourly rate that I can buy back by using AI, for the highest percentage of people. How sure am I that I can automate it using AI? And is it going to be a huge pain in the butt, or is it going to be pretty easy to do? And then I just start plucking off the top of the list and I just work downwards. Like that's the other thing is like this is a marathon, and the technology is changing just as fast, if not faster, than your guys' ability to implement it, all of our ability to implement it. So I try not to stress out about this stuff. It's easy to feel like a failure. Like whoever has felt like they're behind and you're like, oh, I'm not implementing AI. Like it's cool. Me too. Every freaking day. Like the more you use it, the more you feel like you're behind. So I try not to drive myself crazy, and I'll just like pluck a task off the stack and use the tool that I find and try to make it go faster. And I use the ICE methodology to help me figure out where I can get the most significant returns with the least amount of effort.
I think that, and you brought in a really important thing, and we'll open this up if anybody's got a specific question. You're welcome to throw it in the chat. I know Matt's hyper responsive. So I think though that if you're at a tech company, this is a little bit easier to at least wrap your head around. But even if you're not, the number one thing I've found on implementing AI inside of a sales flow is agile. And it seems an agile, once again, is a very product heavy concept. But when you're dealing with hyper chaos, like too many options, too much change, too rapid deployment, too rapid change, whatever. The number one goal is to shrink up the cycle times. So
Yeah.
we want to shorten our cycles. And agile at its very simplest is, can you take that backlog that Matt just created, and can you pick one or two things that you can actually get live in production in 2 weeks or less? Meaning, and the problem with that is that kills off a lot of the giant automations, unfortunately. But what it brings in is the nail it and scale methodology to be able to say, wait a second, I could actually build a project, give it to my sales team, have them drop the next 10 sales calls into it, test the outputs, and see whether it was better or worse. It may still not be faster yet. And for the big hardcore AI people, they'd be like, oh, it's not automated, it's not integrated, whatever the case may be. But the fact that you could test tomorrow
Yeah.
is more beneficial than the fact that it's not fully automated and integrated tomorrow. And really is, yeah, lean out the RevOps and streamline our sales calls. 100% is, if you view the world as saying this, the job's going to change. And, somebody I think brought up earlier said it surprisingly only happened once of, hey, will this job no longer appear? Will this go away? You hear it if you're in the echo chamber of LinkedIn, you're going to hear software engineers are dead and sales managers are dead and this job will no longer be there. If there's that much uncertainty, then the best thing you do is you shrink up your cycle times, because it means every 2 weeks you rerun that ICE framework.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, so if this is no longer A, because the world may have changed, but B, because the one thing you changed may have changed your world. And that's super important concept there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I like the one thing I add into yours, Matt, is I add in an N, which is nastiness. So I like to add in this because a lot of times we'll run the ICE framework and be like, oh my gosh, what we should do is we should automate, automatically take all sales calls, turn them into marketing content and post them out there to the world. And you don't bring in the nastiness of going, and we just sent it to 1 million people and it was wrong.
Mm.
And we can't take it back.
Yeah.
And so for my team, I always add this N in there for how nasty is this. And you can change how nasty it is by saying, oh, we're going to review it first.
Yeah, yeah, for
Or
sure.
yeah,
You can't unsend an email or unwrite a book. Those are like the two permanent ones, I think, in marketing.
yeah, yeah.
Dude, you nailed something that I've heard you preach this before on our little builder nerd group, but it's good to say here. We get, as like the tinkerers, right? The people who come to calls like this and we're really using AI in our world, like we get really excited sometimes about this concept of automation, right? Like I just want to like put it on autopilot and let it, do its thing, and we feel really smart and we got all this, daisy chain stuff. And the funny thing is like you just got to look at it as like, where is the lift? Because if you get a 90% lift from 20% of the effort from using AI to do the thing, and then the automation, like the sales transcript example that Jake and my company is using, like it's not hard for him to go to Zoom and copy the transcript and put it in. We could build something, but like, why? He's already going 90% faster. I'd rather have him focused on go generate pipeline instead of like figuring out how to automate it so we can say it's automated. Like a lot of the time, the automation and the orchestration is where more of the complexity lies. And we don't actually need to do it at all because it doesn't actually help us go faster.
Yes, and maybe that's a good pivot into, like, as a startup, your team is much more engaged. We'll go with that in AI, meaning everything's new. You're building a brand new company. You kind of
Yeah.
have open, this open funnel of opportunity, right? And it's different when you're working in a more established organization with, say, 50 or 100 or 200. I know you've been in some of those bigger, like, how do you deal with that from a adoption standpoint? And how are you seeing some of that as far as like, okay, cool, how do we get the team to use it?
Yeah. I think I'm going to give you a very non-AI answer to that question because there's not some software tool. Like the whole game of business and life is one with small unit leadership. Like my background is in the fire department, right? Where, I was a fire lieutenant on a fire truck. It was me and four other people. And we spent one out of every three working days together, doing 20 runs a day and being, doing crazy stuff. So cool. Like the fire department is an interesting place. We used to say it was 200 years of tradition unimpeded by progress of any type. And sometimes like the culture throughout the entire department wasn't necessarily what we wanted it to be. But within the firehouse with those 4 or 5 people, the culture was what I made it, right? As the person in charge. And so like whether you're CEO or CRO or a manager or whatever, like when you have people reporting into you and as part of a larger organization, within a certain parameter, you get to define what the culture is. Like you get to define what's important, you get to define what they adopt, you get to help them figure out how to think. And so I think that AI adoption is no different than showing up to work early or, working out or doing anything else. It's like we're in the behavior change business. Like any one of us that leads anybody anywhere, anytime doing anything, we are in the business of behavior change. It has nothing to do with AI. And so I think that within that context of like, yes, you're in a bigger org, I would just caution anyone to like not fall victim to the org moves slow and we don't have good leadership from the top and like all these things that like, people with like a external locus of control tend to say. Like, I think it comes down to being a high agency leader and say, hey, we're going to go use AI. And I know there's might be rules on like you can't upload customer data into ChatGPT. I get it. Like, don't get fired. Don't like, violate whatever your data rules are. But within the confines that you have to work within, you can inspire people to act a certain way. And so I think within that, there's two things that I do. I get to do it in my company because there's five of us and we can fit in my dining room, but it doesn't matter. Even if I was part of a 1,000-person company, maybe I have a team of five people. I use it every day. I share the way that I use it every day, and I ask them how they're using it every day. It's very, very simple. Like I built a Slack bot for this for my team. And so it's literally, what did you ship yesterday? How did you use AI yesterday? What are you shipping today? Are you blocked on anything? 4 questions every day, not negotiable. And so they know, because I say it in the question, how did you use AI yesterday? If you have gone more than one day without using it, you're not trying hard enough. Like they get my personality asynchronously. It's cool. And so like I would just encourage that behavior with the team and do the show and tell. We do our Monday calls. Like when I see someone on the team doing something cool with I carve out 10 minutes of the weekly sync for them to do a show and tell. They get to show off and show everyone how cool the thing is that they came up with. Like people chase status. Like humans have been chasing status for years, decades, centuries. So if someone's doing something great, catch them doing the right thing, show it in the team. Like people are like, oh, do I need to like make bonuses or SOPs? Like it's none of that. People want to be recognized for doing the things that you ask them to do. So show them how to do it and make them the hero in front of the group, and they'll adopt the hell out of this thing or whatever else you want them to do when shine the light on them for doing the right thing. So
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Surprisingly enough, the more and the more that AI, the more that things are automated, the more that things are technical, the more that the non-tech side shows up, right? Oh yeah, they want to know the 4 questions in the chat.
I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Matt will throw them in there, and we also have it because I do think like you think about although this is like an AI call, and there's so much hype and so much stuff out there for automate this and whatever. Like these are all still humans. Like literally, and I think it'll be surprising how many times I'll have to remind my clients of this, and I think it will actually go up in the future. You're still dealing with humans. Like these are human sales reps who are talking to human prospects that are dealing with human situations. And if you automate all the human out of it, what you will find either consciously or subconsciously is we as humans start to miss the human.
Yeah.
It goes up substantially. We start to miss those human interactions and those human feels. I think that's if we look at the hype side of things, and maybe we'll rip through this in the last 10 minutes here so that you guys can be ready with this. What's the biggest hype for me? The biggest hype that I think is the replacing of the human to human interaction.
Yes.
I believe, I know it's possible. I can build an audio agent right now that somebody could call into that would run this meeting. And I could build an audio agent right now that could do an outbound sales call. And I can build an audio agent that can take an inbound call and do all that kind of stuff. But I think that we miss that our prospects will miss the human. Like
Yeah.
I actually think they'll miss it. They'll be like, oh, I just don't feel as connected to your brand. I don't feel as connected. Like I know when I buy from somebody that they're getting paid because I bought, it means something.
Yeah.
It literally means, and if it doesn't, then that means I'm buying from an organization I may not care about.
You'll see this in every area of commerce that's not AI, right? I want clothes that were sewn by hand instead of someone off the rack. I want food that was cooked by a chef instead of microwaved out of a box. And I want, a buying experience that was led by a human instead of a computer. This may not be true for the next few generations, but it's true for the one we're currently living in. And since that's where we're solving problems, I think that's where it matters, right? Is like being human is a feature, not a bug. 100% of the time. There's a great book on this called Same as Ever by Morgan Housel. He just goes through these different things about all the things that won't change. I know Bezos asked the same question. And he's done a few talks on that about like he spends a lot of his time focusing on the things that aren't going to change. Like in Bezos's example, it was, people are generally not going to want things slower and more expensive. So if he focuses on delivering goods from Amazon as fast and cheaply as possible, they're probably going to be all right. And I think that's still true, right? We want things fast, we want them cheap, generally speaking, unless like the human artisan stance outweighs the benefit of getting it fast and cheap, which is, exactly what you're talking about, man.
Well, and I think we're also all in B2B. So I think that the most of the hype from a sales engine standpoint, from sales AI, a lot of times misses or allocates like B2C things.
Hmm.
Oh, the customer doesn't want to talk to a person. You're like, yeah, you're right. When I buy an iPhone. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. It's materially untrue. Like they
Yeah,
want
you're right.
help.
When I buy something that is not that hard of a decision, is not that expensive of a decision, doesn't have, I mean, the downside of me buying the wrong phone is pretty low. The downside of me buying the wrong software and implementing it with my team
Yeah.
is extremely high.
But
And,
there's great dialogue in the chat on this, right? Because like I agree with like Christy and Adam, like with both of those things, for instance, I think that the point, at least the way that I see it, right or wrong, is that AI will make humans like will let us have the ability to be 10 times as fast and 10 times more precise. So they will run counter to everything you guys said in the chat, right? We'll be able to increase our throughput and we'll be able to, make less of the human errors. We can still deliver it with the human touch and the human relationship. It's like I feel like it's the best of both worlds. Like people are scared about jobs going away. I'm not scared of that. They're all changing. But the people who know how to use, like, it's just like using a computer. I'm like, oh, I'm going to take up my abacus and like figure out my commission. Like, what are we talking about? It's the same thing. It's just going to help us go faster and be better.
I think that right there, what Adam brought up, that there are some industries process is highly error prone, and but it's the agent intervention, not agent replacement, right? It's the collective intelligence of what happens when these two are working together, which kind of comes back to the whole. And I'd love to hear in the chat, like, where are you guys seeing resistance? Meaning like resistance to use. The AI companies would assume that, in the next 2 years, everybody's going to jump in and be like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. Throw out everything I'm doing and who cares about what this looks like. But I believe that we underestimate the resistance, not like armed resistance, but
I
like,
I think
yeah, go
I
ahead.
think that, not to interrupt here, but
Oh,
I
hit
just
it.
want to, like, what we're seeing in the market, and we're working with some credit unions, for example, that work with huge broker communities
Right.
and admins to those broker communities. Now, you think about the mortgage process. For anybody that's bought a home, knows that you didn't get it right the first time, right? When you submitted all your documentation for you as a person, as a consumer that's getting that loan, right? What we're doing is we're taking AI and we're combing through all the documents that come in. We already know what's bad or what needs to be resubmitted and that's incorrect. And we're using an agent to outbound call that person to say, hey, these documents are wrong, right? They need to be fixed. And we can also do it via chat, right? So we're doing that with these credit unions. And that's a way, like when you're saying there's still a human, yeah, there's still a mortgage broker and there's still the team that's working on the mortgage, but we just took a process that takes 4 days from underwriting to review and submit and then get back, and we made it into seconds, right? We know it's wrong and we're already contacting you saying like you need to fix it.
Yeah. And I
So
think that
that's an
review,
example.
yeah, review and bringing back to somebody to review is probably a big one. I think forms, like web forms, are going to go away.
Yep.
This idea of like,
Yeah.
not just because we would prefer to get more information about a lead, because we would, but I actually don't think they want to type it up. Like
Yeah.
nobody ever was like, oh man, I sure love filling out this lead form. Like I think that's probably one of the most interesting ones we've seen where it's actually on both sides, where the sales rep is saying, man, I wish we collected more information about this lead when it came in. And where the prospect goes, well, I would give you some information, but I'm definitely not going to type this crap. Like, you want me to fill out 17 pages of form fields? I think if you get the transition right from I'm viewing this page to talking, and that's my number one takeaway across the board. Like, if you want to improve your AI stuff immediately, talk, don't type. Like
Mhm.
my phone is full of voice memos where I'm talking, copying, and dropping, whether it's a recorded call, which those are the easy ones, but even if it's me, like driving in my truck, I'm driving to the office, I'm talking into ChatGPT instead of typing because the amount of context goes up by a factor of 10. And so I do think that we'll find that if we get the UI right of getting people to talk into the form, will immediately change all the stuff we have. Like even on that mortgage application, of like, I mean, everybody hates that thing. Think about how many fields they have to answer. Like it's ridiculous. And so I do think that that will be one of those bridges. If you think about it from your org, you ask yourself like, what's the one thing that will change everything that happens after it? Talking instead of typing will change everything that happens after it.
Mhm.
Like every single time because it just immediately changes the context. Yeah, the problem is they want to avoid the conversations about the purchase. 100%. I think, Vaughn, I think people will love the process better when they're talking to sales engineers, not sales reps.
Yeah, that's for sure. But we know that the younger generations are kicking that conversation further down the path. And the promise of AI is that you can actually give them the data that they need at the moment that they need it. And right now it's just not there. And, trying to figure out how to get it there at the moment that they need it, when they need it, for some conversation or whatever that they're having internally that as a sales guy, you have no idea is going on is really the key. So
I think actually stick on that one for a second. It's not there yet. That one piece is probably the reason why we sit, and I know Matt's probably similar. We sit in the GBT stage for so long, the project stage where I build a project, give it to one of my sales reps, and they're running it side by side. I stay in that stage significantly longer before I hit
Yeah.
implementation, automation, integration, because for me, it's so much easier to get faster in the future once I've got it right. But it's
yeah,
very difficult to get it fixed to be more effective when you full automate it because we don't even know it's wrong. I think that my number one, if you want my where to go slow, if you automate a process before you're sure you've ran enough variations with a human playing with it, you won't actually know that you got it wrong.
yeah,
You'll
that's true.
you'll look at the lagging indicator and be like, why did our close rate drop? And there's so many things that have happened in that instance. Nobody will be like, because we're sending shit emails.
Yeah.
Like the email's wrong.
Man, that
Yeah,
was true before AI too. Like
yeah,
go back 5 years ago, we made the 47-step zap on the process that never needed to exist in the first place. It's the same thing, right? Like automating stuff that wasn't vetted out manually first. I was uh I was at SaaS Stock in Austin and they had this AI roundtable the first day. Rahul from Superhuman did a talk and everyone thought he was like going, so it's like AI first email client, like, parses all your replies, drafts replies for you. You can chat with your emails in the aggregate, all that good stuff. And everyone thought he was like doing all this crazy fine tuning. And he said the same thing Ryan saying, this dude, I mean, this guy is crazy smart. And he was basically like, we actually got away from fine tuning the models because it's more beneficial for us to be able to stay agile and just change models when new models come out instead of building all this infrastructure around the one that we have. It's the same exact principle of like minimum effective dose of everything so you can change fast as the tech changes. It's like the biggest lift from people way smarter than me. So,
And I think that's what you find if you take it. Sounds like one of the big takeaways is Matt's four questions. What did you do this week? Like those four questions, implementing that with your, if it was me and I have sales reps that we're bringing on, I look for that of like, hey, like I need them telling me where the model's wrong. That's why I like them using it.
yeah.
And be like, oh, we use this, and oh man, that email just wasn't right. Like it just wasn't the way I thought it should be. Or hey, I think that one of my favorite things is to build a proposal on the fly in front of somebody, like using Gamma. So, and that could be, for us, I like to use ChatGPT to spit out something I feed into Gamma or a third party tool and let it run in front of them. But I think that thing of like feedback, the feedback loop from your team, the feedback loop from the prospect, if we're not careful, we'll lose the feedback loop.
Yeah.
And I don't know of anybody, most people are under under emphasizing the feedback loop in what they build and what they roll out. I don't know if any of you guys are seeing the same thing. I know Matt's nodding his head because he knows, again, that's a tech thing.
It's a life thing. It's so funny. It's like we just do things and don't figure out the right questions to gauge if they're working because we tend to love our own plans. Like so much of this is just people being people, just irrational sacks of meat walking around. I don't know. We do things and we love them and then we're like, oh, this is really smart. It's a good idea. And like how fast can you learn if you were right or not? That's actually, I think, the operative question. I think AI just lets us figure it out faster, than
Yeah.
anything else.
100%. So we're going to close. I mean, clearly Matt and I could hang out for a little bit here. We're more than likely to hang out
Yeah,
with
I'm in.
But thank you guys for so much for coming. Like we've got some more of these going on. Clearly, like we'll follow up. We'll hit you up and give you a recap of this. Matt's 4 questions. I think Matt and I will probably throw together some different ideas. And feel free to hit us back up, hit reply. I'd take any questions at all. I'll go dig down and come up with some other answers to it. But I think, the number one thing that you would usually assume me and Matt would get on a call like this and be like, look at all the stuff we built. Let's go really fast. But I think my number one takeaway, and I think Matt will second this, is like this might be a time to just slow down a little and experiment more.
Yes. Amen, dude. Amen. We don't have to impress everyone with the complexity on what we're building. Just pick out painful tasks, try to help them go faster, less expensive. Don't build yourself into a corner because everything will be different in 2 weeks. Yeah, I feel like that's the bottom line from this talk, and it's the truth.
Yeah, I think that tends to be where I'm the contrarian. I show up on Matt's call and it's like Matt shows this giant process map he's all built, and I'm like, hey, so I built this little chat bot and I'm just chatting with it right now, and it's going to tell me this answer. I probably take that to an extreme. Hey, Brian, why don't you introduce yourself real quick since you stuck around and you showed up after our introductions? We'd love to hear kind of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, sorry about that. I got a little caught up eating lunch with my wife, and then she's like, "What time's your next meeting?" And I was like, 11. She's all, "It's 11:30." I was, dang it. But anyway, I'm the CEO of a tech firm called Dev Gurus. We just build custom code, but we actually were called Build IT of AZ. And as I got hired on in December, I kind of made the decision to really heavily pivot into AI for the company because, well, let's be honest, it's where everything's headed. So this has actually, I've done a couple of these types of meetings. I will say that this is the only one that I wanted to stick around for. This was very, very valuable. I loved what was being talked about, even though it was in the last 30 minutes. And before I did this, I started up my own SaaS company in the firearms industry, ran that for about 12 years, and then realized my business partner had been stealing money and embezzling and committing fraud and crap. So I was like, I'm out. So I just walked away from it. So I'm kind of really just starting over new. But yeah, we do custom code dev, and I've actually kind of started building internal platforms and launching those to help build revenue for the company. So it's more of instead of a one-time build and then, go find a new customer, building more SaaS products within the company.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think actually that, and we'll see. I'm going to talk with Jason after this. We may fire up something more regular, like a monthly one that people can just something similar to what me and Matt have got. I'm getting a few head nods on this.
Yeah, I
Something
think
in the
that's
same
very
space.
valuable.
It's just a little bit of a free for all.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll see if I can't throw something together on top, and we'll feed our roundtables into it to be able to be like, hey, what are you working on this week? Here's a couple, because that is honestly as an endpoint on this. The concept of a mastermind, I think, is going to be the biggest asset when it comes to AI implementation of everything. It's not going to be the automation. It's not going to be the language model. It will be the concept of getting you around people who are doing something similar but different, and just being able to look at their work and talk about what they're doing. Because I think that's where I know the value I get from hanging out with Matt is, oh, shit, you did it that way? Oh, interesting. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Like, I'll go and try it. I think that part is missing inside of bigger companies. And it's definitely missing if you don't build it on your own to get a mastermind together to just hang out and be like, look, the show and tell. I think that's pretty much Matt's entire call. It's like show and
Yeah.
tell.
It literally is that. It's like big win or something that changed your mind, just like signals that you're learning stuff. And then I have 2 questions and it's my favorite game. It's the same question asked 2 ways just to make sure people answer it. So it's like, what's something you're working on that you want feedback on, or what's the biggest question or thing you need from the group? It's the same thing, right? But basically, and then we just look at it and figure out what people are interested in. I keep it small. I think it's capped at like 8 people. And usually we have 5 or 6 because everyone's busy. And it gives us like an opportunity, 15, 20 minutes to go deep and like actually do real show and tell. Because here's the thing to watch out for. I'll leave you guys with this. everyone wants to sound smart when it comes to AI. They'd be like, I built this thing and it does this and it puts my marketing on autopilot. Like, neat, dude. How much money has it made you? Like, how many sales has it actually made you? Like, show me the scoreboard of where you actually did business results with this thing. Because, like, we can all have mediocre proofs of concept. And the thing that I hold the standard on that call about is like, show your work, put the thing on the screen. Don't talk about what you're going to try to do. Like, show what you are physically working on and how it is working for you. And like, don't claim the win till it's a win. And that's the fun thing about like creating the group is you just run however you want. That's how I like
Oh,
to run
that
it.
one right there. Don't
Yeah,
claim the win till it's a win.
yeah,
I think 80% of what's posted on LinkedIn right now is I automated blah and now and you're like, you just
right.
extrapolated 30 seconds into like oblivion.
Yeah.
This is not going to hold up at scale.
My favorite is the here's my N8N workflow for X. And you literally, I know we just created this thing for the lead magnet. Like I'm gonna make a workflow for the lead magnet that pushes on pain that my prospects have. It's fascinating. So yeah.
Well, Matt, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming
guys.
back.
This is a blast.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all.
That's a wrap on our Spotlight with Matt Verlaque. If you got something awesome from this conversation, please throw it in the comments below. And if you'd like to get access to our free ebook on the future of sales enablement with AI, just comment AI enablement below. If you've got a sales enablement story of your own to share, please drop me a DM on LinkedIn. I'd love to have you on a roundtable or as a guest on our podcast. Until next time, keep building systems that scale.